What's up, it's B the Installer. I'm here to hide these ugly TV wires. Nothing is worse than when you have a beautiful TV and then you get an entertainment center of some sort and then you have a bunch of ugly wires. So I'm gonna actually do it with this dual high voltage, low voltage plate that has the nice clean looking cover plate for us, tie it into the electrical below, show you how to do all of that, put in some nice HDMI cords that I got, and make it look nice and clean. So make sure to smash the like button and subscribe and ring the notification bell and all that so you can get the next video I upload and help the algorithm. First, I want to show you some of the options of what we could do. Now, before I've made videos on how to put a power bridge in, which doesn't actually attach to the electrical. It's a little bit unprofessional for like a full installation. Another option, if you either have concrete walls or you're renting, is just to put one of those cable mate cord covers in a small area where, really is it worth the time and effort of running all the wires? But we plan to be here for a while and these cords are driving me nuts, and I have multiple cords, one for the soundbar, one for a PlayStation 5, one for Apple TV. And the Apple TV is actually hiding up behind the TV here because it's just easier in that manner if I don't have anything under the TV. But now that there's something here, I'm gonna make it all clean. Definitely don't wanna do the cable cover for now, so I'm gonna show you how to wire this completely in wall, and then finally just have a nice clean TV, entertainment center, no wires. Since we're talking about organizing the wires for this TV, we might as well talk about organizing your wallet with help from today's sponsor, the Ridge Wallet. For years, I gave myself back problems sitting on this pile of receipts and old business cards. But why? The Ridge Wallet has room for up to 12 cards as well as cash, all in a neat and sturdy design that's far thinner than your typical wallet. There are over 30 colors and styles, including burnt titanium and carbon fiber. My personal favorite is the Forge Ember carbon fiber, which is extremely durable but barely noticeable in your pocket, and it's got these hot red flakes. But don't just take my word for it. Ridge Wallet have over 40,000 five-star reviews and gives you 45 days to try them out with a money-back guarantee. So make sure you go to ridge.com/installer in the description below, type in the code INSTALLER to get 15% off your Ridge Wallet today. Let's get your wires and your wallet organized. Cool. Put this blanket here with the duct tape. Kind of helps keep dust from falling, and I also use a dustpan to catch some of the dust as well. Good habits to use to make sure you can keep the house clean. And then I'm gonna go over some of the things that I'm gonna need. So as I had said here, I have this dual box in here. This came from Amazon. I'll link it in the description. Then also you have to get a back box to put in there. So this will fit in there. So we'll put that in the wall first. And then this will cover it up and make it look nice and clean. I have one for the bottom as well, what we'll put down below to have the cords come out. And so obviously we have the HDMI cords. There's braided ones, non-braided ones. They're both 8K at 48 gigabits per second, so those are really good cords. And then, since we're in there, you could put this conduit in there if you're doing it long term or if you anticipate pulling the cords out, often. I typically just pull a cord out with another cord. It's kind of a little trick. But I'll show you how I run those cords down the wall, so you can do that. And then we have two different kinds of electrical wire. This is for 15 amp circuits. This is for 20 amp circuits. Depending on what the circuit is, in America and California here, typically a lot of these circuits are 15 amp, but we'll find out when we get in there. If in doubt, you can always use 20. It's a little stronger, and it's just a little harder to work with. So a lot of times they'll require 20 amp in certain areas. Just check with the local building codes to make sure, and make sure that you're, if you're on a 20 amp circuit, you use the correct stronger wire. As far as the hand tools, I have a drill. I'll be using that a bunch. And then for this specific, for the wires, you need a good knife. We'll be cutting drywall. Here in America, we have drywall. Obviously overseas, if you guys are watching this, sorry, I know you guys have stone walls, a little bit more intense. But this is how we, do it here. And then once we have everything pulled out, we can use this fish tape or a fishing rod to go down and pull the wires up. And then I use some duct tape to hold on to that. And you'll definitely need pliers, to tie up the wires and to cut them. So definitely have a good pliers. I use Klein tools, very good. It's worth the $30 or so to get one good one like this. And then I typically use a level just so that I can make sure that the boxes are level on the wall. It's nothing like trying to cut your own hole and then it being crooked. So I use a level and a pencil just to kind of mark up where I need to cut holes. I'll show you that. And then you may need tape measure, box cutter, other tools. Like I said, the small black box for down below here next to the power outlet. This is an old work single gang box, insert that you can put in and it grabs a hold of the drywall. So I think that's pretty much it. We may run into some other tools that we need. I'll let you know as we get into that. And while I'm here, I might as well tell you, this is a wiring video, so I'm not going to show you how to install the TV. I've made a bunch of install videos, so you can check those out. But the relevancy is that you do need to know where the bottom of your TV is relative to the wall, so that if you were to put this box up here, the last thing you want is that box to be sitting here like this under where your TV is. So make sure that you can either level across and find out where the bottom of your TV is, or when you're doing the installation from one of my videos, you know where the bottom of the TV is before you put the TV up, then move on to the step of wiring it up. So we're going to take this TV off so that you guys can see the wall and the TV mount and go from there. Straight up. You good? Beautiful. Now that we have the TV out of the way, as I had said, this is the bottom of the TV. It's not like a big distance. It's just more of the fact that a lot of wires just makes for an ugly mess. There's a stud right here where we put the TV mount up. So 2 studs. So it should be that the other stud is around 16 inches, making it to the outside of this. We'll double check with the stud finder, which is a tool you should have. You can also check and make sure there's no fire block here. Even if there is something, we may be able to drill through it from our hole, but it more or less gives us the understanding that there's a good spot for this right around here for our box and for our cover plate. Above the TV, below the mount, we could go inside here and put it there. The only problem is that sometimes when you push the mount back, the cords can jam in there. Probably could because it's recessed, it probably would be okay. So really what you could do is you could go here all the way up into this range. The HDMI cords are on this side of the TV, so more or less they're in this range too. I think what would be best for this situation, because the TV is so big and I don't want it to be visible down here, and if I change TVs and I raise the TV up, I don't want it below the mount. I think the best placement would be somewhere in this range where it's at the bottom of the mount, even with that. And we know that the stud is outside, so we have plenty of distance, and the TV is way out here. So I'll aim for this spot here, which makes this a short run, and then we'll put our other low voltage box, next to this power outlet, which gives the added advantage of once you make the hole somewhat close to the electrical, then you can use your hand to work the power outlet too. And definitely make sure to check and make sure the electrical's off. You don't want to get electrocuted. Be safe. You can turn it off at the circuit level or just flip the entire breaker at your house if you want to be sure. Test it too to make sure, plug something in or get an electrical tester. Make sure the power's off, not worth getting electrocuted. So I got some weird readings here. Took the cover plate off, and I thought there may have been a stud on this side as well, because my office is on the other side of the wall with a wall here, but that's more in this range. It turns out that was just a false reading here. There is a stud on the left side, and you can take the cover plate off and kind of check, there's a stud there, but on this side, there's no stud. If we want to double check and make sure that there's no fire block, it looked like it was clear sailing going up. So I don't think there's going to be a fire block in this spot. This is an internal wall, it doesn't necessarily need it. And there may be one up higher because it's vaulted ceilings. So we're clear to cut our hole here, cut our hole there, and start wiring. Okay, so this is the box we're going to use, and we're going to put it up here and trace it out. Make sure that you trace the sides accurately, and don't trace the top and the bottom, because then this box will fall in. It's meant to sit outside the drywall. So you need to mark these little holes right there, and then I'll square it up and level it once I have it up here. And we can go about this far to the left, to the right of the power outlet, and to the mount. So I'm kind of just going to go as close to the mount as I can, kind of closer to the bottom like I had said, and eyeball this, and we can always level it up at the end. And I'll make little marks, like I said, right there, and on the top. And then kind of scratch the outsides. And so there is our box that we need to cut out. And give yourself a little room, because if it's real tight and when you put the cover plate on, it'll hit the mount. So we got a solid inch. This will keep it as far inside the TV as possible. Up, as we said, it's like 9-10 inches above that. And it won't be in the way of the mount. So that's pretty much a perfect location. And then we'll kind of level it up like I said. All right, so now we're gonna cut this out. I do have the dustpan to catch the dust, but we did put the blanket down as well. Just make sure you don't make a huge mess, or the missus might be angry. Okay, so initially I had planned on going further to the right, but behind here is like a 1x6 or a 1/2x6 plank. It's to support this whole structure. So basically, every so often they'll throw some wood in there in front of the studs to give it a little bit more structure. So there's two options. Either I could have kept going where we wanted to, and then I would have had to have taken my Sawzall and cut that out, the wood, which then kind of makes it hard to fit that box in there, or I just moved to the left. Had another, I can see that far, so about 3 inches there, where we could have gone to the left more. So, and there's all the electrical wires, so we know that we're in a good spot. We can just push those electrical to the side and put our box in here, no problem. So now let's go ahead and cut the bottom box. So down here, we just want to make sure that we're, level. So again, I mark the little holes inside the low voltage box. And then normally I go to the outside of one and the inside of the other to make it the same width of that box. And then a good habit is to level it out so that your box is relatively similar or close. You want to have it the same height as your power outlet so it doesn't look goofy on the wall. And so kind of mark it like that so that we know that we're pretty much on point with how high that box will sit relative to this one, because last thing you want is them to be very far off. So we'll go ahead and catch the dust for this one to make this hole. Broke it off. I'd advise you to get a nice knife. This one's pretty old, so it's not very sharp, which is why it's kind of busting this up. As I said, I can access this power outlet a little easier. My hand's a little big, so we'll make that work. So we got the holes made. That one's a little bit small. Got to make sure they fit. Better to be smaller than bigger, as I said, and then you can always fit. So that fits in there. It's good. That's a little tight as well. I'll have to fix the drywall, as I said, because I wanted to go further right there, and now we have a little cut there. So I'll fix that drywall at the end. A little tight. There we go. So both boxes fit now. So now we'll pull this power outlet off. We already killed the electrical to this outlet. It's a 15 amp as well, which is good because this power outlet that came with this is a 15 amp power outlet, and we can use the 14.2 Romex that comes with it too. So a little easier Romex to work with. It's not quite as hard, but again, check with your building code. Also, make sure you turn the power off so that you don't get electrocuted. So I'll pull this out and we'll get working. I had to get the big gun literally to do this a little faster. So we're gonna wire this up. They have this wired where all the lines go in and out of the same outlet. I know some electricians will say, like, make wire nuts and then have one line pigtail into this outlet, but they've already done it 3 times and there's a 4th available, so we'll just tie in to the electrical in that manner. And the ground is up here out of the box, so we'll tie into that as well. So looks good. We're just gonna add our line here. So let me get the Romex. And again, I have this 14.2, so we'll run this down the wall along with the HDMIs. This is not a tremendously difficult, drop from here, so I don't even really need the fish tape. We're basically gonna use this electrical wire. It could go to the left here. We're gonna have the HDMIs coming down to the right. I mean, you wanna get as much separation from the two if there's any possible interference. I really don't ever find that there is interference. If you keep your HDMIs to the right and the power to the left, they are going to be in the same box, so they're going to be pretty close anyways. I'm going to put 3 of these HDMI cords in the wall again, one for my soundbar, one for the PS5, and one for the Apple TV. You could put an extra one in, but I really don't think I'll need more than 3. And then I'll put the electrical line down. So let's go ahead and put all those wires in the wall. So these are 15-foot wires. We don't need 15-foot HDMI cords, but it's better longer than shorter. And I have 2 that I can use as like components, and then I can use like this one as my E-arc one for the soundbar. That way I'll always know which HDMI is which, so it kind of works out that way. I want to make them easy to run down the wall. Stretch them all out. And again, just because it's easy for me here, I'm just going to just dump them down the wall and catch them at the bottom. And I don't know how much exactly we need at the top. I'm going to need enough to go along the arm and then go back out to the side of the TV. So something like that is useful. And to be honest, it's only got about 3 or 4 extra feet at the bottom, which is going to go back inside that cabinet. I'm going to cut a hole and put it in the cabinet. And then we have the electrical on the other side. Again, it's coming into the same hole for now. And I could have just run them all together, but I want to keep them separated. If I bring all of them down together, then it's like they'll get all twisted up. Sometimes wires can be fickle, even if it's a short distance. So what I've done is I went up instead of down, and now I've got my wire in there. If you need a little bit of space, like I said, for my hand, I could have done the electrical first. So maybe I can get these HDMIs out of the way so that I can get my hand in here, and then now I can feed the electrical through one of these holes. So I'm going to try to bring it through this little hole in the bottom. Because there's a lot going through the top holes already. So that hole helps to get my hand in here a little better, and then I can feed it up into the box. And if you need to, if it's kind of hard to reach, you can always grab it with the pliers, pull it through. So there we go, we have the electrical coming back through, and now we can go and tie it in at the top. And now these HDMI cords that I moved out of my way, we can pull back through. They are no longer in the way. So on the top here, we have the HDMIs to the right, the electricals to the left, and that's how it sits with the power outlet facing up on that side. So I'll grab the box, and now we're going to pull the electrical through. Obviously, we have some excess. We could cut off the excess. We're not going to need it. Like, leave about 12 inches, 9 to 12 inches extra outside. And then I'm going to feed that electrical through this box, actually the bottom. We're going to push it through, grab it, and kind of pull it into the box. And then we have the pass-through box for these HDMIs. Pull the excess through. You can always adjust that once it's in. Fold those clips down because these clips catch the drywall, so we got to fold them in, push this all the way in, and then we're going to tighten those up. Be careful when you tighten those clips, because if you over-tighten them, they'll snap, and we only have one at the top and bottom. The clip is going to flip up this way in behind the drywall. You need to make sure that it's deep enough, and that if you have double drywall or plywood or anything, that it's deep enough for your wall. You also, if you had plywood or some sort of other, like if I had wood on this side, I could screw it into that wood too. But I'm going to put my finger up there so it can't go past vertical when I screw this in, and it'll cinch tight to the drywall. So I felt it hit my hand, which is good. And now it's going tight to the drywall, and there you go. So now it's grabbing a hold of the back of the drywall, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. I can't get my finger down there, so we're going to have to just judge and see how we feel from the tension. Yeah, and so it got tight real quick, which means it might have not been in the right spot here. Okay, so we have the box in there, electrical on the left, HDMI's on the right, looks good. Now we're going to tie this into the new electrical box. Let's go ahead and do that. And for that, I will need the box cutter to open this wire up here. Just go down the middle. Get my negative, positive, get the ground all separated. All right. So for this, we have the positive and negatives. The negative side is always away from the ground, and then the whites here, the neutral on that side. So we can either wrap them around the posts, or we can just push them into these spots there. Some people have a preference of wrapping them around the post. I do too, so I'll just go ahead and hook them around, and then we'll have a good strong connection, and then we'll just run our HDMI through this hole, and then we'll put it on. So when we're gonna wrap these around, we're gonna use about an inch, cut off about an inch of the coating there. And it's just easier to kind of bend them now. That's what these good Klein tools are good for here. Wrapping these around, and the same with the ground. And then, you just need a good screwdriver, and you can start putting them on. So you want to wrap the tail so that the tail goes into your clockwise motion. If you don't, then it'll come off as you're tightening it. So I got that clockwise, there we go. It's on there very strong. Same thing with the neutral here, just do the same thing on the other side. And again, the white goes on the same side as the ground, and so we'll also get the ground on there. Nice and tight. You could screw the other ones in if you want, not a huge deal. You also could wrap some electrical tape around this if you wanted to, but it is going to go all the way into this box and not be near. That's why I got this box that has one high voltage and one low voltage hole, is because it's going to be isolated inside there, so you don't necessarily need electrical tape. It's also plastic versus metal box, so you're not worried about these touching the side. So now that we have those in there, while this box is out, we also can shove the HDMI cords through there. Just straighten these wires out. HDMI cords can get really coiled up because of how they're packaged. And for me, I forgot that I needed to add this cord for the HDA9. It has a 3.5 millimeter cord that is for the center channel use on this big A90J. It's not really long enough. It's kind of cutting it close. Maybe is long enough, but I'm gonna just add this extension in the wall. So I have a 3.5 millimeter extension. So let me run that cord in the wall as well. We'll just put it in like this. And then what you can do again is I can pull up some of the HDMI length and I can tape it to it and then pull the HDMI cord back down, which will then suck that wire in the wall. And that's how you can do this if you need to add cords later. Just duct tape it. And then I'll pull that HDMI cord down the wall. And there you go. Come out the bottom, pretty easy. And that's just a really quick way to get another cord through the wall if needed. All right, so now we have to kind of push this back in the wall, make sure our electrical goes in there nice and neat, that the ground isn't going to come back and make contact with one of the power ones here. So go ahead and situate that. It would be a good time to fix this drywall here. I'm going to have to come back and do it later, but we'll put this in and I'm going to screw each one of these in now. There we go. All good. Wires are in the wall and it's nice and tight. So let's finish up the bottom. So I'll strip these wires off again, get it back into the box and cut off the sheathing. And now that we're just gonna pop these in, we don't need quite an inch long. It's only about 5/8 of an inch. And we have a little excess wire, so I'll cut that off as well. Now there are a couple options, as I said. We could wrap these around the posts. We could pull all these wires out, put them in a wire nut, and then stick one back in, pigtailing it. But these power outlets are rated the same as the wire nut, and they are rated to have all these wires in here. This is a 15 amp power outlet on a 15 amp circuit. Adding these wires does not change the load on this outlet. It's the same either way. It's not wrong to have these wires in here. That's why they have the wires in there. I mean, it may be your opinion that it's better to either put them around the posts or wire nut them. But this is perfectly fine, and since they're like this, I'm just going to continue because on every job and on every power outlet, you can't go back and undo electrician's work just to make it quick. So we'll just go ahead and cinch these in. So it's a little bit tight, but I can get this neutral in there. Okay, it's in tight, and then we have got the juice right there. Pop that in, and there we go. They're both in there solidly. And then third, we have this that's going to go up into the ground. And since this ground goes out of the box here, I'm just going to I'm going to pigtail this ground wire and add a new piece in here. So go ahead and cut these to the same length. And then we can clip those ends off and then put our wire nut on. Okay, and then now we have a new pigtail for our ground wire, which we can put on and tighten up. There we go. So now we have all the wires we need for the power outlet. I do recommend you making sure the power works and all that, but I'm going to push it in. No sense in turning the power back on and then stuffing it all in there and having something short. So I'd like to kind of get it all situated first. Make sure we feel safe that the wires aren't going to be touching. That looked nice. And then go ahead and get it all back together, and then we'll turn the power on. And then we can put this cover plate on. Now, our cover plates aren't going to match. I'm going to go through and I'm actually going to change all the electrical outlets in due time here. So unfortunately, it's just going to be a white cover plate. And while we're here, let's go ahead and put our low voltage box in there. So we'll take all of our wires that we have, including this super long 3.5, put them in this box going, outside from the back forward, run it all the way onto the cords, and then push that in the wall. And then we'll put this box back in again. I kind of use my fingers to make sure that those little clips don't overextend, because once they snap off or bend, they're harder to use. And make sure that you don't accidentally get your HDMI cords up behind that either, because that can break your cord. So that just spun around in a circle, so that is exactly not how I wanted to do that. So here, I'll grab it with my finger, tighten it up, and there we go. So now that box is in there nice and tight. And all we have left to do is put this cover plate on. Here we have this plate that we're gonna put on the bottom. Going to take it apart. Comes in 2 pieces. This is the piece we have to put over first. The things we do to make it look nice. Put this one in here. You can get all this stuff on Amazon, so I'll try to link everything in the description. Put this piece on first. And then we put the final cover plate over that. There we go. So now we have a nice clean cover plate. Obviously, again, they don't match because I need to change this out, but I'm not going to buy a bunch of ivory plates in order to match these ugly old plates that I need to replace anyway. So I think it looks nice there, and then we can raise or lower those cords as needed. There you go. All right, put the safety screw back in. Okay. So we got the TV back up and all the wires connected, and I'm going to show you them real quick. We have all the wires connected, going along the arm, and the HDMI is in here, and that audio cord, it does work. I did have to extend it, so there's a little extra cord everywhere. I went from a 4-foot cord to like a 30-foot cord, so make sure you have proper HDMIs that work. These are a little stiff. When you run your HDMI cords, make sure that you give it a little slack. These are left loose intentionally because when you fold a mount up, sometimes it'll yank cords out or you can break HDMI ports. So try to secure it to the mount so that these don't move into the ports. And then along the arm, I give it a little bit of looseness. Make sure the power cord doesn't come unplugged. And then it goes all the way to the other side for the power. So up here looks pretty good. Let's look below. Down below, basically I made a hole. I just bore out like a 2-inch hole there. Have the HDMIs come through, coiled them up and zip tied them. It's not perfectly neat yet. I mean, we have the PS5, which is big, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna lay it down, put a shelf in and have this come up here or what, so I kind of just threw it in. This is not a soundbar, actually. It's just the A9 from Sony, which is the 4 speakers and subwoofer, and that connects with a 3.5 millimeter cord and the HDMI up to the TV, and then we have HDMI, I think it's 2 connected to the Apple TV, and then HDMI 4, which is 4K at 120 going into the PS5. So got the surge protector as well in here, and it's not perfect yet. I might put the shelf in here like I said, but for now it'll do, and I can just close it all up, and now we don't have to worry about wires. Okay, that's it. That's how to hide your wires. I hope the video has been useful for you. Definitely comment below if there's a question you have about how I did something, or if you would do something differently, or if you need any of the products that I had talked about, look in the description below. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe, set the notification bell to all to get the next uploads, and just like that, you can be the installer.